Hello, good morning. My name is ShadWachter. I am the technology literacy teacher at South Fayette Intermediate School. I teach grades 3, 4, and 5. I'm really excited about sharing an awesome project that my students did this past school year. This project, it's called Coding Nature. The QR code at the top will actually link you to a website that the students, which has a collection of the students' work, and I'll be referring to that a little bit later in the presentation. So I'll come back to that in just a little bit. All right. So as I said, yeah, I'm ShadWachter. I teach technology literacy to grades 3 through 5. I used to be a music teacher years ago, and then I got my master's degree in educational technology, and then I started teaching tech lit at the intermediate school. So throughout the presentation today, we just had our introduction. I'm going to share with you the lesson and the actual overall process, then the planning process, some challenges that we met along the way, and then just a very brief lessons learned section. So the name of the project was called Coding Nature. This project was probably intended for students in much higher grade levels, whether it's middle school, high school, or possibly even college level. But I was able to bring it down and adjust some of the things to make it more accessible to 5th grade students. What I thought would be a very rewarding experience certainly turned out to be. So the overall essential question for the project was how can we use technology to connect with nature? And in this project, the My Nature Outing website unit, it combines 3 different fields of study: environmental justice, data science, and computer science. So in this unit, the students are introduced to environmental justice as they participate in a nature walk around their school community. They learn that humans have an impact on their environment, and that whenever decisions are made concerning the environmental regulations, that everyone, regardless of race, income, or location, should have access to a healthy environment. Students collect, analyze, and report qualitative data throughout the unit. While on their nature walk, students collect images of nature to share what they see on their walk, and additionally, they collect data through all of their senses. They write down what they see, what they hear, what they feel, what they smell while they're on their walk. And they also interview some classmates or a family member or a professional about their experiences with nature or their opinions on environmental issues. And then they report all of their findings, images, and interviews on their website. Students use computer science throughout this unit as well, and they learn about file management, as they transfer image files from an iPod to their Google Drive to a folder on their desktop. And so there's a lot of moving of the files around. They remix an index.html file template to begin learning the structure of HTML code. And then they add their images, their text, and their sound files to the HTML code as they build their website incrementally and iteratively. In the end, every student then has a publishable website telling about their experience in nature. I've linked the overall unit on this page here. So if you click on that, it'll take you to a unit plan, which just gives you an overall synopsis of the entire lesson or the unit. I found this quote about cross-curricular connections and cross-curricular teaching, and I thought it was very important to share this with everybody. Cross-curricular teaching or instruction that intentionally applies multiple academic disciplines simultaneously is an effective way to teach students transferable problem-solving skills, giving real-world meaning to school assignments and increasing engagement and rigor. This is certainly true as we approached this lesson because it is multifaceted. I mean, we have science. In science, the topics covered in science, we have environmental justice. You could include this either under science or math with collecting data, analyzing data representation. That all happens with science. It also kind of carries over into technology and computer science world as well. But what we're focusing on mainly in technology is the website design. looking at HTML code, what it's like to be a coder, as well as file management. The students, whenever they open up their computers, they are very used to everything being in the right place, because that's what teachers do for them. They put everything in the right place for them. And so this lesson actually provides the opportunity for students to move files from one location to another, learning how to take a picture off of a phone, save it to a Google Drive, and then download it to their computer, and then put it into another folder that they also downloaded from the computer or from the internet, and then uploading all of it back and putting it onto into an HTML file. For language arts, there's connections with descriptive writing. I made the connection with poetry, which is something that I added to this lesson from the original lesson. And the poetry unit goes along with a unit that they were working on in library class. So I was able to work with a library teacher, and the students were able to either work in my class on some of their poetry or work in library class. And then finally, also conducting interviews. That's like a life skill of preparing questions and then giving interviews. There is a great art component in this. Students get the opportunity to learn about photography, and there's a brief lesson about that. And then if you were to use this in your classroom, there are probably many other places that you can find other connections. And I challenge you to do that if you decide to take this on in your class, is try to find other connections to make this lesson meaningful to you. So one thing that I try to focus on are habits of mind, to make sure that students are incorporating and using the skills that are necessary to problem solve and be successful, to have kind of those soft skills in life. And so some of those habits of mind, the first one, of course, is gathering data through all of their senses, whether they're taking pictures, whether they're smelling, whether they're touching, tasting. They're gathering data through all their senses. They have an opportunity to collaborate in this. There are students who we start off working in groups of 2 or 3. I always encourage students to work together with one another as they're working on their projects. Of course, creating and innovating. They're creating a website, questioning, thinking about the world around them, and asking all of the questions, about environment, looking at data and asking questions about what they experienced. Certainly lifelong learning. Striving for accuracy to try to make their projects as clean and crisp as they possibly can, and as well as communicating with clarity and precision. So I'm going to actually walk you through the process of the lessons. Lesson 1 was an introduction to the nature walk, or introduction to the entire unit, and then also the nature walk, where the students actually went out and took pictures of items around the school, or nature areas around the school. And I'll talk about more of that in just a second. They collected that. They also wrote down words, descriptive words, to describe their experience. And that was what we did in lesson 2. They created a word bank of descriptive words, and then they took those descriptive words and they either wrote a paragraph or a poem. We did all of this in Google Docs to start, and then they were going to copy and paste that their Google Doc, the information from the Google Doc over into their HTML code. Speaking of HTML code, lesson 3 was all about file management and intro to HTML code. We had to set up their computers to make sure that they had the text editing software on their computer. We used Atom.io to do that. So the students had to download that. They also had to get a folder from a repository online. And so we talked a little bit about README files, collecting things from online. They put that folder onto their desktop, and then that's where they stored their pictures that they took. That's where the sample template index file was that they were going to manipulate, that had the HTML code on it. And any other assets that they collected that they were going to add to their website was all put into that folder on their desktop. And so we talked a lot about file management, and we also then they got a little bit of an introduction to HTML code. The program, the text editing program that we used that I was talking about a second ago was called Atom.io. And this program is really neat because the students can see on the left-hand side of the screen the HTML code, but then they get a preview of what that HTML code looks like on a website on the right-hand side. So they had a split screen that they could manipulate the code a little bit, and then they would see that manipulation over on the right-hand side and where they changed their code. It gave them the opportunity to very quickly do some troubleshooting if they made a mistake. It also had code comments on it, and the code comments were step-by-step directions on how to adjust and change the code to make it their own. Lesson 5, we had a brief discussion about environmental justice. The really cool thing about that is, as we talked about environmental justice, it was actually the week after the president gave his State of the Union address, and he actually mentioned environmental justice in his State of the Union address. And it was great to be able to make that connection and have the students talk a little bit about that. And at that time, they also started preparing for their interviews. They came up with a list of maybe 3 to 5 questions that they were going to ask either a friend, a family member, or a professional in the field of environmental justice. I think I only had one student do that because they had a family member who worked for an environmental company. Lesson 6 was creating their nature walk podcast, or their nature podcast, where they were interviewing their friend or their whoever they decided to interview. And we used the program Audacity on our computers to record that. Then we took that file, the sound file, and we put it into our the folder on their desktop, so that the index file would be able to call for that file in their website. And then finally, the last step is publishing the website. Unfortunately, we didn't get an opportunity to publish all of the students' websites. So I took volunteers. And the reason why we couldn't do that is because GitHub actually requires students to have an account. And so I'll talk more about that later. But I took all of the students' work who wanted to have their work published, and I put it all under my account. And then I created a website from that. I did link to our nature outing website lesson plan right here. So you can check out a more descriptive plan for each of these lessons. Before I get into the planning process, I'm actually going to go back to that first slide because I want to show you the student work that was created. One more. So this is the a website that I actually created that goes through the entire process. There's pictures of the students going out and taking pictures of of the wetlands around our school. Whenever we had our discussion about the wetlands, or about the environmental justice and going on our nature walk, whenever our school was built, they and I described this to the students, that anytime like a large building or something like that is built, if they have to tear down a forest to put up a building, you're talking about taking permeable items, nature, things that could absorb water, and replacing it with a non-permeable thing like a building, something that doesn't absorb water. And so by creating wetlands, you're actually starting to take care of the environment and put back some of that environment that you took away, or some of that nature that you took away. So we had that discussion. The students had an opportunity to go around and take pictures of the several areas, wetland areas. So in this website that I created based upon the student template, you can see that I started off with a picture at the top, title, the project, the process, and then here are some pictures of the students gathering some assets. Again, taking pictures around the school building. We have a small wetland area between the parking lot area and the driveways. We have another wetland area down around behind the back of our building. And then we have several areas around the building that are just natural areas. There's an outdoor classroom. There are planter beds and things like that. While they're out, they, like I said before, they were collecting 5 to 20 words, descriptive, and they did a descriptive writing to talk about what they experienced on their nature walk. They could have either looked at the pictures, or they could also collect the names of the trees and the plants and the animals and the insects, the things that they saw. And then I also encourage them to think about their other senses as well. Students could either write a descriptive paragraph or a poem for their project. Then here's audio assets. Students interviewed one another. I have a video here of students interviewing each other.
Benefits of being outside. Some of the benefits of being outside are air is very good for your lungs. Help you breathe a lot better. Being outside is
So you can see that these two students were asking each other about the benefits of being outside in nature. That was one of their questions that they had. We did talk about environmental justice in class. And then on here, this is where I put links to all of our student work. And one that I really wanted to point out was this student here, Molly Grella. She created this website that was just amazing. Her pictures were really pretty. She really got the essence of this project. These are the images that she took. She wrote about the images. She said, I took these pictures with my friends Ali and Anna while on my nature walk. My goal was to capture the small things that no one seems to notice. I believe that everyone on this earth was made for a reason and that we can't overlook anything that we've been given. The first images of cattails, they're so warm and make me feel happy inside. The second pictures of the small flowers surrounded by the lower parts of the cattails. You can continue to read this, but this is really what I was looking for. And I was hoping that students would get out of this project. Here's another picture that she took behind the building. Then the students collected words. These are some of the words that she collected: adjectives, nouns. And you can also see the writing that she did. I encourage them to use as many of the words from their word bank in order to create their writing. Some of them did a really good job of doing that. And then for her nature outing podcast, she interviewed her sister at home. And then she said she answered some questions about the environment and her experiences with that. And I'm not going to play all of this for you, but there is a 5-minute audio recording of her interview with her sister. And then one more picture at the bottom. So this is an example of a exemplary project that that the students created. Not all of the students finished. In fact, if you go into some of them, you may find that there's still some of the notes left from before. They were supposed to take out this whole nature sound. We didn't have time to do this one. To go out and record. Plus, around our building probably wouldn't have been the best place to record nature sounds, because you probably would have gotten a lot of buses and cars and things like that driving, and other sounds that weren't related quite to nature. So we took that part out of ours, but this student forgot to take it off their HTML code. But again, they all have followed the same template. And again, you can see that maybe he didn't quite finish, but he really wanted his project published. So I published it for him. And moving on down, here's more pictures of the kids taking pictures. And then on the website that I created, I put a link to the nature outing website, as well as to the unit plan, excuse me, and the lesson plans as well. I also put in here that the lesson was adapted for South Fayette's fifth grade students from a nature studies course that was taught in Finland. The nature studies course takes a transdisciplinary approach to understanding environmental education. And you can learn more about it here. You can also view other sample lesson plans. And if you have any questions, you can contact me here. I put that all on the website. Let's go ahead and get back to the presentation though. And for the planning process, before teaching this unit, I did some environmental justice and data science training. I learned a lot about GitHub. In that training, GitHub was the program that allows us to actually publish it. That's also where the repository is stored of all of the files that the sample files that the students would download to their computer. That was all located there. Then self-exploration, looking on my own to try to figure different things out. That all happened beforehand, so I could get used to how to use GitHub, how to use Atom.io, the text editor. Then gathering materials just consisted of making sure I had enough iPods to take pictures for the students. The iPods were nice because they could automatically just upload to their Google Drive. It wasn't like they had to take something off of a camera and upload it to their computer, although that probably could have been very similar. So if you don't have iPods, you can always use a camera. And then I also mapped out not only the lesson plan, but mapped out where the students were going on their nature walk around our building. During the unit, there was a lot of troubleshooting, especially with the text editing. I'll talk more about this in a little bit, and the file management. A lot of planning and revising of the lesson plans, deciding what was going to happen at a different time. There's a major, I say a major issue that the students ran into where if they had a problem with their computer, they lost the files that were saved to their desktop. And so that's something that I'll have to troubleshoot if I'm going to do it again next year. And then after collecting and publishing, revising, and then reflecting on the whole process of, I took the lessons and took them from like a 9-day lesson down to a 7-day unit. And so here are some of my challenges and the change that I made. The first one was a lot of the information on the README file and on the repository was probably above the 5th grade level. I gave them a quick introduction to what a README file was, what a repository is, a little bit about GitHub, but that really wasn't the most important part. The most important part was actually them creating the website. And so I made it very simple for them. Instead of like 3 or 4 links to get to the repository, I created one link, put it on our classroom Canvas page, and the students were able to get their documents a lot faster. The second problem was, as I said before, the students losing their files that saved to their desktop. If they saved something to their desktop and their computer broke and their computer had to be re-imaged, they lost everything. And so if I were to do this again, I would certainly have the students back up all of their files to their Google Drive. If not daily, then every so often, so they wouldn't have to go back and redo and recreate the index file if they lost it. The next one was, what if it rains? That was very important, or very opportunistic, that there was that it didn't rain much while we were going out, which was surprising. So I think there was one day. So you just have to kind of be flexible with your schedule. I put this at the end of a unit. So there's about 2 weeks that I could have had the students go out and do their nature walk. I had one class that was pushed back about 3 weeks because of rain or scheduling. But if it does rain, you can come up with some alternate plans. Maybe pick a rain day, change the project purpose to another environmental issue, and maybe take pictures around your school, like indoors. Maybe talk about recycling. What are some ways that your school does recycle, or other environmental issues? You can still do some of those things inside, or have the students do research and find pictures online and just make sure that they give credits for the pictures that they found. It loses that whole nature walk perspective of being outside and gathering through all senses. But if push comes to shove, that's something that you could do. The next one was the environmental justice. Is it age appropriate for the students? I think I had students having a hard time grasping the concept of people making decisions about the environment at like the government, whether it's governments or private companies, making those decisions. That was a little bit above fifth grade, but it was okay to introduce it at this time. So our focus, while I did have a couple people tackle the questions about environmental justice, a lot of students went and more to the avenue of environmental appreciation and appreciating what they had in the environment. And then technical issues caused the unit to take a little bit longer, but I was able to then at the end go back and look at all the lessons and then revise them and change it from a 9-day lesson down to a 7-day lesson. And then, of course, publishing every student's website. That was, I really wanted to have every student do it themselves. But because GitHub requires students to have an email account to create an account, our students don't have access to their school email. So I had them instead volunteer to have their websites published. And anybody who did volunteer, I had to get the files off of their computer. I just put them into my computer and then I uploaded them into my account. And so what are the lesson learned? First one is, yes, we can do this. It's at first I was like, I don't know, is this really gonna be okay for fifth grade? But yeah, it was great. And it was a great success. The kids really enjoyed it. So even though the project was originally intended for an older audience, I think the fifth graders were able to do it. They did it. And then I do have 3 different videos here of students' reflections. I'm not going to take up a lot of time or any time looking at these, but if you want to go back and just hear what some of them said, that's fine. I will play just briefly one of them. This is the example I showed you before of Molly. I'll just play a little bit of what she said about the this project.
Hello, my name is Molly Grella, and this is my report on the Nature Walk project. My favorite thing about this project was probably how we got to kind of express ourselves through our websites. We got to really put some of our thoughts and our ideas into our own projects. The thing I'm probably most proud of about my project is the writing portions of it and how descriptive we were able to be. We got to just write different like poems and do different writings about it, and I really enjoyed that. The thing I probably found most challenging about the project was finding the right lines of codes to like delete and what to like do with that, and also trying to get the pictures transported onto the thing. That was probably the most difficult thing for me. I learned how to be able to work with nature and learn about the environmental justice and how much nature affects like the rest of our lives, and how to also create a program and a website and then get it published onto the internet. So I think that was a very interesting thing that I learned. If I did this project again, I would probably do the picture taking a bit differently. I'd probably spend a bit more time outside, maybe take some like videos to be able to put on the website, and definitely look a bit harder for different like interesting aspects of nature. This project I think really helped for other aspects of schooling in my life, because sometime along the road I'll probably have to make a website or do a project on data science or environmental justice. And I can use this as kind of this is what it's supposed to look like. And I can be able to apply what I learned here to other websites that I might have to make in the future. I had a lot of fun doing this project, and thank you so much to Mr. Wachter and the different people who have helped make this possible.
So I just wanted to share that with you because, whoops.
Hello, my name
is because she was one of the students who I think really got it, and I really enjoyed working with all of the students to do this. Then, whoops. Sorry.
Once again.
Keep clicking the wrong spot. Let me go to the next slide. There we go. All right. So thank you so much. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Looks like I need to put my username and my password in here. I think I put it on the very first slide. I apologize for that. But you can check out the very first slide, and you can see all of my contact information there. Again, it's at there we go. rswachter@southfayette.org. And my Twitter handle is that I share with the other STEAM teachers in my building is at SFIS STEAM Lab. Please feel free to reach out with any questions about this project. I would love to talk with people and help you out if you want to try it in your own class.